5 years ago, I made you a promise.
Promises. We've all promised something in life. To friends, family, ourselves. The concept of a promise is no foreign entity. But what exactly does it mean when we discuss the promise of creative media? Every creator makes a promise to their audience in the opening moments, promising a specific experience or journey to those amongst the crowd. This could be something as simple as the promise of a funny movie if marketing a comedy, or the promise of a quest toward a specific goal. Even this video makes a promise, by telling you in the opening moments that I'm going to be teaching you about writing promises. In the same way a gaming YouTuber can make a promise to show you whether or not it's possible to beat Dark Souls with nothing more than a stick. But how exactly do we incorporate a promise into our writing? Before even leaping into the narrative itself, a major place where we address the desire of our viewers and offer them a specific experience is in the marketing of our product. This can range from trailers, little blurts you'll find on Netflix or the back of a book, the way we address our stories on social media or in conversation, and even in the title and tagline. For example, if your story follows a group of criminals having to learn to trust one another, and more importantly, learning who amongst them deserves trust, all in order to achieve a massive score, you may choose the title No Honor Among Thieves. Here, the title builds anticipation that trust and honor will play a major role in the narrative. Going to a more real example, during the press tour for Deadpool and Wolverine, Ryan Reynolds told the story of how the original title for the third Deadpool film had actually been Deadpool and a Friend.
The movie was originally called Deadpool and Friend. I am actually not joking. And on the eve of the Super Bowl, it leaked, because the son of a bitch is on the internet. And the title leaked, and we looked at it and listened, and they hated that title. And we were not feeling so good about that anymore. We called everybody at Disney and Marvel and said, we have to change the title.
As Ryan just explained, focus groups didn't exactly agree with this title. And considering that the name of the movie is the first thing viewed by a potential customer, changing it was the best way to go. Now, what you name your product is often up to you, but certain elements of marketing could be on you or could fall to a dedicated team. Unless you're spearheading a solo indie project, odds are you won't be the one cutting the trailers and scribing the social media content. But for both in-house conversations and ones reaching your possible audience, it's imperative to make clear just what it is that your story seeks to achieve. Be it embarrassment or fear of spoiling too much, one skill that many creatives lack is the ability to talk about their work in a way that draws interest. Many, myself included, have a tendency to try and give the briefest and broadest overview possible. In fact, back when my current comic endeavor was in its very early stages, my way of describing it often went something like this. It's just a story about a secret government agency and how they deal with the sudden appearance of people with superpowers. Sure, that's not a terrible concept, but that's about all that saves it here. There's very little to be gathered from what I've said. At least, too little for someone to hear this and think, yeah, I would like to read that. And above all, it doesn't come with a promise. It's an informational blurb, with zero incentive. I've made no promises of what to expect, or what you as an audience member stood to gain. Now, let's take a look at a recent short made by author Brandon Sanderson, as he described multiple series he's created.
Now, if you would prefer something more action-heavy, then I would recommend starting with Skyward. This is a science fiction novel about a young woman who joins her local Space Force fighting against a mysterious enemy. And it's action-packed, quick-paced, and an excellent place to start. Now, you do have also the option to start with Mistborn. Mistborn is the story of a fantasy heist. It is one of the books that made me famous. It's 20 years old by now, and it's apparently held up really well. People are still reading it.
When I first saw this, there were two major things that stuck out to me. First, and most important to us, Sanderson's description gives us a sense of character, setting, and plot, and promises a certain experience or type of adventure. And second, which is more of a marketing thing, he's using specific terminology. verbs meant to excite the reader before they've even turned the first page. So, with my prior example, current me has rephrased my old poor college descriptor to be: Powers follows a down-on-her-luck blogger as she navigates a deadly conflict between a top-secret government agency, a highly classified facility devoted to human advancement, and the superpowered beings left in this facility's wake. Thrust into unfamiliar territory, Erica is forced to find friends in unlikely places to avoid the deadly set of crosshairs she's made herself a target of. Of course, I've still got a good deal of workshopping to get through, but you can already see how one greatly outdoes the other in terms of garnering attention. And that's because we've now promised something. Intrigue, mystery, thrilling dynamics of trust between characters, and superpowered action. Now, our audience has things they can latch to: a character, a conflict, and a lesson. And remember, there's nothing wrong with going into detail, especially in-house with the people you'll be working with. Just avoid going too deep. I've unfortunately experienced the other end of this, the person that talks for hours about their perfect trilogy plus of adventures, where so much info gets dumped, the listener hardly retains a word of what's been told. We've covered how to make promises outside your story, but what about inside? Unfortunately, unlike a YouTube video, your protagonist isn't going to get up and address your audience at the opening saying, "Hello, my name is Bruce Wayne, and by the end of this movie, you're going to understand how my parents' murder changed me and made me become the Batman." Well, at least you normally won't. However, some stories out there do give that ability. Books written in first person could have their protagonist openly state their goal at the start. Heck, going beyond that, even in a third-person narrative or film, we can have a character verbally produce their promise via a conversation with another character. One Piece's Monkey D. Luffy regularly proclaims his goal of becoming king of the pirates to every character he meets, making the promise to both in-world characters and the audience that by the end of the series, we will see how Luffy becomes the king of the pirates. Going beyond that, another popular anime, My Hero Academia, kicks off the series by having its protagonist Izuku Midoriya proclaim in the opening episode via narration that promising us as the audience that by the end of the story, Deku will have become the greatest hero, something he's actively doing in his battle against history's greatest villain. Heck, even comedy movies like Ferris Bueller and Deadpool can have their fourth wall breaking leads openly state their film's goal and make an early promise to the audience as to what they should expect. But above all else, as a writer, our main priority is building a world, story, and cast of characters that promises to enrich the viewing experience. Keeping with My Hero Academia, yes, Deku does tell us at the start of the series that the story will be about how he became the greatest hero. But that really isn't what matters. What makes Deku's claim interesting is where he starts. All through the opening episodes, Izuku Midoriya is a hero-loving nerd that aspires to be like his idols, all while being without a power of his own, something that makes him a target to bullies. And so through episode 1, we watch Deku struggle with the idea of what makes a hero. To him, this is about whether or not he can be one without having a quirk. But to us as the audience, we also have a question posed, via the spotlight-stealing Mount Lady and the ill-tempered Bakugo. Much like Deku, we too wonder what it means to be a hero in the world of My Hero Academia. And thanks to the introduction of All Might, it becomes clear. Quirkless or not, the true making of a hero lives within Izuku Midoriya. And so, My Hero promises to show us how this young boy, with the heart of a hero, takes a simple dream and makes it a reality. Let's run through one more example, this time utilizing the wizarding world of Harry Potter. Right from the very beginning, the Sorcerer's Stone makes two major promises. First, there's the short-term promise. When we're first introduced to Harry, he's a miserable, forgotten child, mistreated by his aunt and uncle and unreceiving of love, the very concept completely foreign to him. And so, with the arrival of Hagrid and the reveal that
"You're a wizard, Harry,"
Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone sets off to deliver a story of a young boy finding his place, his friends, and his family, promising the experience of joy, wonder, and, well, magic. But what we're most invested in these early movies is seeing how Harry interacts with Hogwarts and the wizarding world, how characters like Ron, Hermione, and even Neville give him a place to call home. But just as these early moments with the Dursleys and Harry's wish to find his people sets up expectations for the first of 8 films, there's one scene that helps cement the entire series moving forward. While in Diagon Alley, Hagrid tells Harry about his parents, and more importantly, about the villainous Lord Voldemort. I still remember all the way back to the first time I saw this scene, and the thoughts that it put into my head. That either Voldemort was still out there, or he had an heir or follower waiting in the winds, ready to plague Harry's venture into wizardry. Seeing as Potter ended a whole decade ago, we now know the full story. Voldemort's return taking over the back half of the franchise, and pitting Harry and his friends against the vicious Dark Lord. But this one small scene painted just how dangerous the magical world could be, and set up expectations that these whimsical films full of childhood wonder would soon find themselves on a much darker path. And for those curious in Harry's growth and journey, they now had a final goal plotted at the end of the 7th year, a showdown with the Dark Lord. To break it down, it's really all about consistency. Promises aren't hard to make. In fact, you very likely have thousands of movies you can already identify the promise of, or even acknowledge how your own adventures have promises built within, even if you hadn't fully intended them as such. If you decide you want to make a romantic comedy, and spend all this time building the romance between the leads, only for the halfway point to suddenly shift focus to retrieving a special MacGuffin, never resolving those romantic threads, your viewers will be left unsatisfied. The key word to remember here is unresolved. You can resolve a romance by not having the lovers end up together, but their decision to break up or not get together in the first place has to be addressed. Otherwise, you're changing goals and themes without warning. Imagine if in Raiders of the Lost Ark, Marion actually died, and instead of continuing his quest for the Ark, Indy embarked on a John Wick-esque mission to kill all involved, leaving the Ark lost to the sands. Even if Indy's still best Belloc in the Nazis, leaving the Ark story in the wind is a surefire way to leave fans disgruntled. And shows fall victim to this more than anything. Long-lasting seasons and moving pieces often disrupting the expansive story. Actors choosing to move on prior to a show's completion, creating gaps and leaving voids. Like how in that 70s show, we spent 7 seasons following Eric and Donna's relationship, making the introduction of Randy hard for viewers as showrunners tried pushing him and Donna together through season 8. Additionally, bringing attention all the way back to Arrow, we spent 2 full seasons on the relationship between Oliver and Laurel, leading many to believe they were the endgame couple of the series, causing a rift in the fandom when Olicity was made more than a fanship. Matters that were only made worse when the show's original female lead not only lost her spotlight, but was just straight up killed off by the 4th season's end. Promises are all about consistency. We're creating an experience and an expectation for our viewers. And while our fans like to be surprised, it has to be within reason. If a big moment meant to change everything makes the entire story unrecognizable from how it all began, it'll come packed with issues. It's best to keep one thing in mind when it comes to a writer's promise. Fans watch for a specific reason. Fail to deliver, and it's a great way to lose that fan forever.